Abusia for mamu nyina akwa ba daily update TV and any day they can your channel so make sure so we na kotafi and the subscribe button now finish WhatsApp on the notification bell and be also so we can all the new updated these two channels or more what is really going on in politics right now. I think this message so what you trade so what be comment section ya beje na kan e wo ho and so the amount ya dia Ameri me no de ka say the former president John Dramani Mahama ne Ameri power plant or the by 2016 say MSL dum so no N.Addo danko ekufuado ene Bawumia atamsa Ameri power plant na ede akosi Kumasi omo reason ti omo yesa ni nyina etiawa yenkoti edi nti omo se omo movie da Ameri power plant no ede ko Kumasi anya sadia asemo ya to omo.
Well, first of all, the some clarity as far as you know, has all the badges been moved?
The initial plan was to move part of it, but from all indications, it appears they now decided to take all the 250 back to Kumasi to relocate at least in the Ashanti region. That's what I know.
But do I also read vindication in your tone? Because I sense from what you said about the criticism of it and now being moved to Kumasi to solve a problem, that you feel that over time you are being vindicated because the same person was criticizing you has gone 360 degrees and have come to rely on the same power badge you criticized to solve a major power problem in that area.
Yes, you see, we consistently spoke about this issue of Ameri and the fact that if people are patient and calm enough to look at the facts as they were and they still are, that it was a very positive investment. It was an investment that was going to help Ghanaians. The people never. And when you finish, you can just Google. I have written about 2 or 3 articles on Ameri, just trying to demonstrate that it was one of the best decisions we ever took. But unfortunately, when politics cloud our judgment, we refuse to see facts that are even just before us. So things like this are gradually shedding light on the positive thinking of the then president, that he saw things that we didn't see, and therefore implemented policies and programs that eventually was going to help the country. And that is exactly what we're doing. Because one of the things why they're taking Ameri to Kumasi is not only just because they want to augment the power supply. The other part is that they want to stabilize the power, the quality of power that they get today because of the level of voltage fluctuations. And so if you have a big city like Kumasi, and for that matter, the Middle Belt, where there are businesses who cannot rely on quality power, then it becomes problematic, not only for the people of Kumasi, but even for the country as a whole, because Kumasi and for the Ashanti region is a huge contributor to the economic growth of this country. So, for me, yes, if you sense vindications in my voice, you are right. Yes, if you think that I am excited that these facts are not coming to the fore, yes, you are right.
I see. On the matter of Ameri, one thing comes to, have there been some accountability to your committee as to, because you're saying from what you know, which means that this from official government sources?
Yeah. So this is it. I've always indicated that the role of the parliamentary subcommittee is supervisory, but the decision to do those things are always executive function. And the last time we had a discussion with them had to do with the cost of the relocation. You recall that we had the cause to complain that the amount involved in relocating the plant from Abuazi to Kumasi had moved from somewhere, I think, $25 million to about $38 million, thereabout. And we were not the only people who were raising this alarm. Within the corridors of VRA, people were raising alarm. And the reason was because they were trying to hire a company known as Methylenos, if you recall. They were the same company, that's Micah. They were the same people who got involved in when they were trying to renegotiate the Ameri deal, which led to Boache Jaco's dismissal. So they were the same people they now wanted to use to to relocate. So that was the last time we got, and we raised those issues. Because VRA then said that they could relocate it at a cheaper cost using their own engineers and in-house expertise. They could do that. So that was the last time we got to know official reporting to us about Ameri, apart from the fact that they had indicated that the BOT had ended and that they were handing over the plant now to, because it now became the property of Ghana. So they were handing it over to VRA, and therefore VRA was going to manage it as an asset for Ghana. So that's how we got to know that.
So that was the last discussion that you were ever involved in. Now you know that the plan has been, you said all the 250 megawatts have been moved to Kumasi.
Yes, please.
The ranking member of your committee says there's an intention to commission it again.
So usually we have what we call we have technical commissioning, which is basically different from just the pageantry that you always have in terms of commissioning, that a big man will come and stand and say we have cut the tape. The technical commissioning usually is what we will call in the street language on test. You know, when a mechanic takes your car and works on it, he takes it and drives around, isn't it? To see how it goes. So that one is also a technical commissioning. And so obviously, if you relocate a plant, you definitely will have to recommission it. But if it is the basis that the purpose for which this discussion is being done about the issue of renaming, the renaming will not definitely fall under technical commissioning. This was basically a political decision that has been taken, and it is very common with Akufo-Addo. He's a typical neologist, somebody who has a penchant for renaming things that he has not built. That is his trademark. Whether it is a university, whether it is any national asset. And the fact is that for the Ameri one, it is even a bit more disgraceful, because this was a plant that you chastise the former government, like the John Mahama government, for procuring. Even though you had PricewaterhouseCoopers that did the value for money audit that indicated that all the plants that we had procured before Ameri, if you levelize their capacity charges and the various rates that were given, that Ameri was far better. Because remember that Ameri was just for 5 years. The agreement was just for 5 years. Because after 5 years, you needed to, hand it over to Ghana. So what ordinarily should have been, the rate that ordinarily should have been spread over 20 to 25 years, like any other PPS, any thermal power plants, they actually, when you are doing a calculation in terms of value for money, you levelize those ones. So when you levelize, whether it was the capacity charge, whether it was even the rate they were giving for everything, all the various parameters, Ameri was far better than all the power, the thermal plants we had procured. But this MPP government, then in opposition, chastised it. What did they do when they came to power? The first thing was that they were trying to shortchange Ghanaians by trying to renegotiate the contract that, to a very large extent, was more expensive than the initial agreement. Two, what they did was that instead of the 5 years, they increased it to 6 years. in terms of ownership. So the people had to. The last part of it is that they have decided now, as usual, to put their stamp on it, on something that they have not built. It is very typical of Akufo-Addo, a neologist.
But in the meantime, whilst you raise these issues, what happens to the earlier issue you raised about even the transportation cost?
Yeah, so when that happens, quickly, because we raised the alarm, they renege in making miscellaneous take place, what do you call it, pick up that contract in terms of relocation. But we are yet to get the details, and I believe that the fact that this issue has come up, we will definitely be asking for those questions. That one, what was the cost of relocation? Two, was it DNA that did the relocation, or they had to hire a third party? We will have to ask all these things because these are all executive functions, and until issues come up that need specific investigations, sometimes you don't get to see all these things because Parliament must also be seen to be micromanaging agencies. We do the broad what do you call it supervision about the health of the company, about issues of accountability and transparency and things like that. And this will definitely fall under the ambit of transparency and accountability. And so this is an area that we will be looking at.
In the meantime, the very suggestion that the power badge will be renamed means President Akufo-Addo can now claim it as something he did.
Yeah, but that's the point. You see, his challenge is this. He is unable to boast of any national assets. But he has been taught as a kid growing up that he needs to be an important person and that his name must be remembered in the annals of history. So all he is doing is either to rename things by their political cronies. Because look at all the renaming they did. All of them are the Buzia Dankwa tradition or they are his relatives. Indeed, if you look and if not for the fact that the general public has been against, for example, University of Ghana being renamed as J.B. Dankwa University, he definitely was contemplating that. And look at almost every national asset that he has renamed. It has always been a Buzia Dankwa thing. The latest was the Tamale International Airport, where he wanted to name it after a chief who was a Buzia Dankwa, what do you call it, person. And that was the reason why the king of the Dagon had to write a letter to him saying that was going to obviously divide the Dagon state. So I'm just making the point that he has that particular penchant for doing those things. It is because he's an underachiever. He's somebody who simply cannot boast of anything. I mean, if I were to ask you that just name 2 or 3 things that Akufo-Addo has done, a national assets that he can point to, you will struggle to get that. And that's why even his own ministers, when they ask them to name 5 achievements in areas they are unable to mention, it's because they did not do anything. But they still want to have their names mentioned. And so they will go and put stamps on assets that they never contributed in bringing into being.
But do I?
Yeah, me do be asked say, but you now the share video into people for my ati say, dear, o my no Kumasi for pa. It is some race or my mom na so. No man ye be a Kumasi for ya dear umbelusu musit because as we all know no. Dear Kumasi, almost stronghold, and into no Monsieur Mama, John Domain Mahama, near Ameri power plant, so at a Kumasi for Sunday be enjoy a good electricity. Nothing is common, Krunum Hornus, so I am very bright, a drain you man news to be a how send be a hopeful be vote to aban a diamond. If this is only subscribe, message or tap on the subscribe button, I'm nothing so what on notification. Send a beer on so Sabakan all the new updated the Bugus Ama, be said any macro.